Welcome everybody to more Corpse Party. Now, it's something that I was meaning to address, but kind of forgot to address in the last two parts. Is that the video might have some skipping here and there. I don't have the best laptop, so some frames might be dropped here and there. If it does, I'm sorry, but I think you should be well off enough to I think the frames aren't that bad to where you can't watch, so hopefully everybody can understand. I'm trying to put out videos that so I can get my presents, New Encyclopedia Obscura entries have been unlocked. WI, the Wicca Institute, Kisaragi Academy, Yoshiki Kimura, Grimoire, Sachiko Ever After, Yui Shishido, Ayumi Shinozaki, Seiko Shinohara, Shimorenjaku's South Apartments, Mayu Suzumoto, Naomi Nakashima, Satoshi Mochida, Yuka Mochida, Sakutaro, Morishiji, Takamine Yanagihori, Yoshikazu Yanagihori, Hajime Yamazaki, Mirai Yamamura, Ryo Yoshizawa, Candle. Yes, please. I would like to save. New chapter. Oh, so I can go back and play chapter by chapter. Okay. Returning. A day had passed since the events at Shimorenjaku's South Apartments. This was to be a significant turning point for me, and Mochida might have been a part of it from the start, except that fate seemed to have other plans for him. Miss Huon, I have something pressing I need to get to, so if you'll excuse me. No, you sit back down. Satoshi, your score... No, you sit back down. Satoshi, your score on that algebra quiz yesterday was rather embarrassing, don't you think? Like an owner training a puppy, Kiwan gave him a strong glare and held up her index finger in reprimand. For the next hour, I'm going to give you a personal lecture, and you're going to listen. And then the next quiz will be a snap to pass. But aren't you an English teacher? Isn't algebra a little outside your field of expertise? Anything's possible if you put your mind to it. She seemed a little taken aback by that remark, puffing up her cheeks like a chipmunk in protest. But Miss Kiwan... It's startling how alike she and Miss Yui are. I'm sorry. Looking both bemused and guilty, Mochida tried to get up and leave his seat in one swift motion, but he was quickly and easily caught, lifted up, and forcefully sat back down. Miss Kiwan was smiling. She was actually enjoying this. Who or what am I dealing with here? Miss Kiwan was only the slightest bit taller than Mochida. This did make her taller than the average, but her arms were small and frail. There seemed to be no way she could have possibly lifted someone of his build. This whole situation was rather bewildering for him, and he made no attempt to hide his confusion. Now, let's begin, shall we? Yes, ma'am. He had no other option. Apparently, he was going to be studying algebra for the next hour, come hell or high water. Meanwhile, at a local cafe near the school, Kishi Numa and I were sitting down to speak with Aiko Niwa, the informant who led my friends to me the previous night. Are you alright? Are you alright? Does your stomach hurt? I responded with a dismissive gesture while continuing to rub my abdomen with my other hand. Ever since the previous night, I'd had this constant, unbearable urge to pee. What the hell is wrong with me? I mean, I know I got really scared and hyperventilated, but can that affect my body like this? Did it change something in me? My bladder feels like it's fit to burst. So, where shall we begin? Aiko tilted her head and stared at me, looking me up and down, seemingly judging my every mannerism, my every movement. It was making me feel really self-conscious. I covered my abdomen with both hands as if guarding it from her gaze. Thank you very much for your help yesterday. Think nothing of it. Think nothing of it. I only regret that your friends couldn't get to you sooner. Kisaragi Academy is quite large, so it took some time to track down Kishinuma and the others. Kishinuma and I stared at one another, still unsure how to feel about this strange new addition to our entourage. Ayumi, Kishinuma, you two are survivors from Heavenly Host Elementary, are you not? We'd pledged never to discuss Heavenly Host with anyone else, which we'd always assumed would be an easy promise to keep, but now, casually and out of the blue, here we were. Why? How do you know about that? Also, I don't think I'm going to be giving him that, oh. He just seemed like a snob at the very beginning, but now he just seems like a kind of like stubborn kind of guy. Well, you've been touched by the ever after. When people come into contact with the beyond, the color of their auras changes to something otherworldly, something I can see. Oh. Both Kishinuma and I were speechless. I just sat there staring at my palm, subconsciously trying to see my aura, I guess. Aiko was smiling at us triumphantly. You said you were an intelligence agent, was it? For the supernatural? And you're a friend of Naho's? That's correct. I'm the one who tipped her off about Heavenly Host Elementary, in fact. The true source of the deaths and subsequent erasures that had turned our lives into a living nightmare was the Sachiko Ever After ritual posted on Naho's occult blog. I've been a fan of Naho's for quite some time, so when I saw that I knew I had to try it out with my friends from class 2-9, and as a result, half those friends were now gone. I suppose you're aware that Naho was involved in supernatural investigations on behalf of one Mr. Kibiki, no? I am, and I know she hasn't been seen since posting information on Sachiko Ever After. Well, my business is of a similar nature. I gather data from, not always money, mind you. Sometimes I'll do my dirty work in exchange for a particular spirit item that piques my interest. It all depends on whom I'm dealing with. It's entirely give and take. They want my information, and I want their cash, or their artifacts. Physically, Aiko was a very attractive young lady, but personality-wise, the jury was still out. Her words were calculated and emotionless, her true intentions a mystery. One could call me an information dealer, but I prefer intelligence agent. Naho was a good customer. My info on Heavenly Host proved to be her last purchase, however. At the time, Naho was single-mindedly excited about Mr. Kibiki's work. She believed he could qualify for some award with the information I found for her. Say, could you tell me, was Naho there in that other world you found yourself strapped in? Naho died together with Mr. Kibiki. I looked down as I answered. Despite everything she'd done, the memory of Naho's passing was still painful for me. She'd become one of the Heavenly Host's lost souls and gone completely in berserk. In the end, I was the one who finished her off. I see. I assumed as much. Sorry. Aiko seemed completely unaffected by this revelation. Her tone remained even and her expression cold and distant. Honestly, I'd Had about enough of her by this point. Something, 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 something. And you're okay with that? I do feel sorry for her, don't get me wrong. But I have a strong feeling things would end this way. There's no point in lamenting that for which I was fully prepared. Kishinuma continued to stare intently at Aiko with his own brand of cold and motionless eyes. He was oddly quiet, though. His anger was palpable. I clenched my fist. What about this girl? What about this girl? I believe she performed the ritual alongside Naho. Did you see her there as well? Aiko showed us a photo of a girl named Sayaka Ue. Ue? No. No, I can't say I've ever met her. I see. Aiko's expression was so unfaltering you could carve it in stone. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to say something. If you're calling Naho your customer, I don't think you can really say you were her friend. My voice was breaking with rage, but even if that hadn't been the case, my face must have read like a book. This icy bitch may have had only one expression, but I sure didn't. Oh my. Do you have something against that word? When I deal with my customers, I give them a guarantee of the utmost quality and dedicate myself to their satisfaction. It's an unbreakable bond of trust like one would have for a partner. That's not always something you can say about friendship, now is it? That's... I had no idea what to say. It seemed like Aiko was used to this sort of thing. Her response felt carefully rehearsed, like a sales pitch. Finally, Kishinuma broke his silence. Hey, I do want to thank you for helping us save Shinozaki yesterday. Really. But spreading dangerous information just to pay the bills? How the hell can you sleep at night? Information is just that. Information. It's harmless on its own. There's no good or bad. It's like a tool. It's up to the recipient how it's used. Anything can be harmful in the wrong hands, after all. Why, that cup over there could be used to kill a man just as easily as any knife. The hell it could. That's bullshit and you know it. Do you agree? Aiko, I'm sorry, but I hate the way you think. I feel it's irresponsible. Her expression remained calm and collected overall, but her eyes blinked several times in rapid succession. It was the first outward sign of emotion we'd seen from her. Well, now it seems I've come to be regarded as something of a villain here. I can't say this is new or unexpected, but it never ceases to be disheartening. Aiko quickly shrugged off her sudden outburst and was back to her usual icy self. It doesn't matter now anyway. We destroyed Heavenly Host. It's gone. An awkward tension filled the room, or at least our table. Let's get down to business then. The reason I sought you out, something I wanted to discuss with you. Aiko produced the thick, hardbound file folder from the light blue bag she brought with her. She'd opened it to several documents of a questionable nature. Among them were what looked like a family tree, as well as numerous pages featuring black magic symbology or images that looked like tree branches. Huh? Black magic star charts? And is that a Shinozaki family tree? You may find what I'm about to tell you a bit shocking. Aiko was looking directly into my eyes now. Her gaze was fixed, intense, and unblinking. What Kishinuma said a moment ago is incorrect. Aww. What do you mean? Heavenly Host Elementary has not been destroyed. It still exists, even now. Look.
これを見て。
Take a look at this. Bruh. I could place a black and white photo on the table. It wasn't the clearest of pictures, but there was no doubt that the location it depicted was Heavenly Host Elementary. In the picture, a small girl could be seen standing in those all too familiar hallways, holding a hatchet in her right hand. It's Heavenly Host. Where did this come from? We have confirmation then. It's a thoughtograph I've taken. I didn't have the power to produce a clearer image, but this is the current state within Heavenly Host. I don't understand. What am I looking at? I can't even describe what was going through my head at that moment. I felt like I was about to burst. Aiko, however, remained calm as ever when recounting her story. Let's start at the beginning. First, the red box from yesterday. After some time, I was able to open it, and I found these spirit items contained within. The box I'd found on Makina's futon. Inside it were apparently 2 stones resembling magatama, comma-shaped ceremonial objects from Japanese antiquity. Also included in the box were several more roughly hewn stones, as well as a lining along the edges, consisting of crumpled pieces of thin white paper. Unfortunately, most of the box's contents were broken or damaged. This pair, however, was still fully intact. They looked almost like a demented version of the yin and yang symbols, puzzle pieces that were clearly built to be slotted together. Yeah, we've seen those in the in that little loading circle down at the bottom right, if you haven't noticed it by now. Aiko now held 1 stone in each hand and was motioning them toward one another as if to drive that point home. Spirit items are, in the simplest terms, items which have been infused with the thoughts and feelings of the dead. Those who bear such objects will be visited by the spirits within them, or at the very least be forever privy to their memories and earthly laments. It's a wonderful thing. I might not quite look the part, but I'm an avid collector of spirit items. Kishinuma and I briefly locked eyes again. We shared the same look of bewilderment. Aiko's personality was much more twisted than either of us had initially perceived it to be. I tried to get a fix on this little girl's thoughts, and in doing so, I heard a vengeful cry and saw an image of a girl with braided hair in an abandoned school building. My curiosity having been piqued, I took out this camera. At this, she produced an old instant camera and placed it on the table in front of us, and tried to take a photo of the image in my mind. The result is that shot. A particular spirit item only allows me to produce images from the exact moment in time when the picture is taken. The past and future alike are beyond its reach. I examined the photograph in greater detail, and a chill ran down my spine. There was absolutely no denying what it depicted. No. I was actually shaking. Without Sachiko Shinozaki, the school should have collapsed. It should have ceased to exist as soon as we escaped. I believe the collapse was halted. Perhaps right on the brink even. Maybe because of the person to whom that voice I heard belongs. Aiko motioned towards the photo in my hand. It could even be the girl in that picture. I wonder who she is. The answer was beginning to dawn on me. A sudden cold sensation exploded through my body and I shuddered as trying to shake off the encroaching realization. God damn. You really think that hellhole is still around? Kishinuma leaned forward. The conversation was clearly beginning to engage him a lot more than it had been. Heavenly Host Elementary, or rather, the dimensional space that took on the form of Heavenly Host Elementary, fascinated me from the moment I introduced it to Naho. I began to research it independently, and learned that its true identity is, well, something like a new nirvana, another world or hereafter, another worldly plane of death. Though ordinarily one tends to think of there being only this world and the next. A new nirvana? That's correct. Ooh. You know about Yoshi Shinozaki, do you not? Yeah. And of her clinic, the Shinozaki estate, where the grimoire known as the Book of Shadows was located. Hi. Why? How could she have known about that? A million thoughts, a million questions were running through my head. I was speechless. All I could do was sit there and hear her out. Oh, fuck! What is going on? Seiji. It was like a muffled scream or a moan of agony. The sound you make when you want to make a sound, but are barely able to. That one was a little more forceful. Accompanied by thrashing, it caused the nearby table light to fall over and roll along the ground. Please, dear, come now, you need to stay calm. This was Yoshi Shinozaki's clinic, and Yoshi herself was on top of her husband, holding him down with both of her hands. She continued her Shinto purification chant. To prevent Seiji from biting off his own tongue, he had been gagged with a towel. Needless to say, he wasn't looking particularly well. Not far from where this was occurring, Sachiko stood aghast, trembling as she watched the proceedings with hesitant sidelong glances. Izanagi no Okami, who visits the underworld and beholds her foul spirits, guide us to the cleansing waters of the Tachibana Ori no Gara shores. Odo no Ahagihara shores in the land of Tsukushi. Seiji, still collapsed on the floor, was clearly suffocating. His body was bent into a most unnatural shape, and he was feverently clawing at his neck. I beseech thee, in the name of the divine virtues of the gods, gathered here to wash away the sins we've committed, and the impurities that dwell within our minds and bodies. More grunts. Sachiko's father screamed through his gag, foam beginning to froth out from its edges. He was going into cyanosis. And for those of you, including myself, cyanosis is bluish or gray color of the skin, nails, lips, or around the eyes. So he was turning blue. Ghostly images of Shinozaki women from past ages smiled down upon the event from the ceiling, laughing and mocking his suffering. Worse still, some of the women had traditionally blackened teeth, giving their smiles an unintentionally sinister edge. The atmosphere within the room was heavy, as if the spirits occupied every empty corner, dancing and flitting about freely and joyously. Seiji's body sharply bent and began convulsing. Come into this world, multitudinous Okami of Haruto. Dear, stay with me, dear! Mio no Mitama, I beg of you, please do not take him! Her great-grandmother, Sierra, the head of the Shinozaki family, was among the blackened teeth women, laughing joyously at Seiji's suffering. Daddy! Daddy! Homeboy dead. His voice began to weaken and his convulsions began to lose strength. Finally, the last spark of life left his body. His eyes rolled back into his head, and all movement ceased. Daddy, why aren't you breathing? Sachiko looked up, her eyes glazed over with tears. Yoshi, too, was stricken with grief and despair. Sorry, I'm kind of going past through all the whining and crying and mooning and everything. I'd rather not have to sit here for too terribly long, because each of these episodes are only lasting 30 minutes apiece or so. And I'll try to speed them up, to get through as much as we can. This is what it means to be a Shinozaki, to be part of the cursed bloodline. All men who marry in are guaranteed to die quickly. Not even Yoshi could circumvent that fate. So she turned to the forbidden book, an item she and her family had been protecting for generations from those who might misuse it. The Grimoire, the Book of Shadows. To lose a loved one was a fate she feared more than anything else. So she tried to offset it through black magic. It was an act of truly absurd foolishness. She must have cared for him so deeply, she would have literally done anything to see him again, no matter the cost to her own immortal soul. Aiko stared deeply into my eyes, seemingly fishing for a reaction to her tale. But then, what happened next was almost beyond belief. I continued listening, unknowingly stroking the wound on my thigh as unpleasant memories of my own foolish run-in with black magic resurfaced. The Shinozaki blood that flowed through Yoshi's veins was more powerful than anyone could have known. Its energy spawned something much different than what Yoshi intended. By which, of course, I mean... I instantly knew what she was going to say. From the book she created, a new nirvana. There one could coexist with the dead for all eternity. It was a new dimension cut from the netherworld itself, forcibly born into the world of the living. Yoshi must have lost half her sanity right there. She tried to leave her only child, Sachiko, in the real world, while living with her husband's soul in the new nirvana. The land of corpses. However, this nirvana had a mind of its own. Yoshi couldn't possibly control it, Shinozaki or not. I knew that all too well. Just like Yoshi, I'd experienced my own tragic failure with black magic at the Shinozaki clinic. Black magic has its own blowback of sorts. Her husband's soul was split apart and scattered in all directions, and Yoshi's life too was on the verge of being snuffed out. She knew she'd made a mistake, she deeply regretted it, and she took what she could have only assumed to be her dying breath, her sole daughter, Sachiko, in possession of a nearly limitless spiritual potential, absorbed the entirety of this new nirvana into her body. Sachiko. The poor girl collapsed on the floor, violently thrashing about as the weight of an entire dimension crushed her from the inside. This action saved her mother's life, certainly, but death would have been surely preferable. Picking herself up, Yoshi rushed to her daughter's side in tears. Sachiko, Sachi, why? Mommy, don't die, Mommy. Both parent and child were bawling, pain mixing with relief, mixing with pain again. The little girl buried her face into Yoshi's bosom and just cried and cried. Yoshi grasped her tightly in both arms, tears streaming down her face uncontrollably. By this point, Sachiko's body had begun producing a dark blue aura. I'm sorry, Sachi. I'm so sorry. Mommy was wrong. Mommy has you. So from now on, Mommy will blah blah blah. For Christ's sake, I keep accidentally hitting the spacebar. As you know, Sachiko is a direct descendant of the Shinozaki line. A thoroughbred. This means her power is greater than Yoshi's. It had to be, of course, for her to house an entire dimension within her body. Aiko took a big, noisy sip from her coffee mug, At the time, she must have been the strongest practitioner of dark arts in all the world, little girl or not. Yet despite that, she wound up dying. That's right, the same day Yoshi fell and died. Blah blah blah. They were both killed by the principal. Just as I suspected. The principal's heinous actions are to blame then for resurrecting the new Nirvana within Sachiko and creating the closed spaces we know as Heavenly Host Elementary. It's probably because the school was the site of Sachiko's violent demise that her Nirvana took on its form. Yet, even then, with Sachiko reborn as a spirit in that realm, she was still all-powerful, seemingly continuing to exert complete control over it. I guess that's why she was able to manifest so many different horrible things in there. This was all starting to make a sick sort of sense. The pieces were falling into place and painting an absolutely awful picture. I shuddered to myself as I considered it. When you escaped, you removed Sachiko from the equation, but the Nirvana remained and is going berserk once more. It should have just disappeared. This world would have been better off without it. This entire conversation was a roller coaster of emotions for me. At this point, I was just angry at everyone involved in this whole ordeal, myself included. Now then, if I may, I'd like to discuss something a bit more something. Okay, would you like to see your dead friends again? Well, that certainly got our attention. We both perked our heads up immediately. Spirits that have died in the Nirvana are said to roam its grounds, trapped and unable to find rest. As such, your friends' souls may still exist on that plane. There are actually a number of useful magics listed in the Book of Shadows. Aside from the spell Yoshi used to create the new Nirvana, there's also a spell of revival. Nakashima knew about that one all too well. Forcefully returning to life to this plane is, of course, dreadfully taboo, and is considered an affront to the will of God by virtually all religious organizations. Kishinuma seemed a bit more confused than he probably should have been, though I suspect the look on my face had something to do with that. I'd performed that spell. The very one Aiko was describing, blah 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 blah. Aiko grinned at me, and I had this sneaking suspicion it was because she somehow knew what I was thinking, though I couldn't be sure, and I certainly didn't know how she would. Still, who cares about bullshit like that, right? You can be blasphemous. You can break every commandment. Bring it on. You'll do whatever it takes to resurrect your dead friends. No? All you have to do is find that book and cast that spell once more within Heavenly Host Elementary. Your chances of success would be much, much higher there, don't you think? Hold on. Do you have any idea what you're saying? Perhaps if things get even worse... I didn't exactly mean to interrupt Kishinuma, but quite honestly, I didn't even realize he was talking. I was too focused on what Aiko had just said. You know about it, don't you? Our failed attempt at Yoshi's place. Me and Nakashima. Aiko tilted her head at me, the same wry smile creeping across her face. She'd gone from cold and emotionless to knowing and expressive in a mere instant. I don't think we really believed what was happening to us. It was like a dream. What we saw was impossible. What we experienced was impossible. I thought I was going insane. It shouldn't have been possible. We shouldn't have done it. I want to put all of this behind me. But it was real. I could point it to the scar on my neck, and then went one step further and lightly brushed it with her hand. I could feel that touch deep within my soul. I suddenly found myself swallowing my next breath, practically choking on thin air. See, you came in contact with something ordinary people could never imagine. Do you really think you could just turn tail and run from that now? I looked down again, trying my best to avoid Aiko's gaze. Do you really think I can do it? When had I started crying? I raised my head again, intent upon looking deep into Aiko's eyes as she answered my question, but she looked something. I could tell, though, she was smiling at me. It was that same expression, her new standard. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. Could Could you be more specific? Can I really? Yes, what is it? I want to hear you say it. What exactly is it that you wish to accomplish? Can I bring everybody back? Nicely done. Aiko patted my head as one might a dog after a successfully performed trick. What the grimoire produces are miracles spawned from the wisdom of the witches, and these miracles hold power to bend fate, even if that fate is set in stone, so to speak. You are a descendant of the house of Shinozaki, a family of immensely powerful practitioners of magic. And since Hinoe is no longer with us, this is something only you can do. My confidence was being bolstered by the minute. Though in retrospect, that was likely Aiko's aim. Nonetheless, if there were still something I could do for my friends. But wait, I don't even know where the Book of Shadows is anymore. Plus, you're no longer able to travel to Heavenly Host by way of the Sachiko and the Ever After ritual. Now that Sachiko is gone, correct? Yeah, that's right. That's what Yuki said anyway. Or Yuki Kano, a girl from the school. Aiko once again placed the bluish-white Magatno stones from the box in either hand, this time fitting them together, though not quite the way they were supposed to interlock. That's where these come in. What are they? They house an exceptional amount of spiritual energy, as one would expect, given they are spirit items from the Shinozaki line. The voice I heard told me about them. They're called Ever After Stones. Ever After Stones. I leaned forward despite myself. The name sent a shiver down my spine, but now that I'd heard it, I had to know more. These two are one. Fit them together like puzzle pieces in chat. Nirvana, I summon the dead. And all who are in direct or indirect contact with them will be spirited away. We both flinched at our chant. Baiko just smiled. She must have intentionally oriented the stones the wrong way, so the charm wouldn't activate. It's the same when you return. She tossed the stone she'd been holding in her right hand to her left, where it clacked together with the other. Strange, isn't it? This girl taught me the technique herself. Aiko gazed longingly at the stones. She was clearly utterly enamored by them. It seemed as if they were the key factors in unleashing her newfound emotional expressiveness. But my focus was elsewhere. Without a doubt, the items Aiko now held in her hand were extraordinarily dangerous. Possibly the most dangerous, horrific objects in the entire world. However, while Aiko was ogling them with her left hand, her right was feeling around for something in her breast pocket. She slowly removed it, producing an old black and white photograph. When had she taken that? It was the same photograph I had seen at blah 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 blah. It depicted young Yoshi alongside her mother and Makina. When Yoshi was in her teens, she adored her Aunt Makina and would often go over to her place for a visit. The Shinozaki family, world famous for their spiritual abilities. And this was when it all started. The surviving elder of the Yagura Society felt it was too dangerous to leave these items with the Martubas, so she came here intending to steal the Book of Shadows away from them. But he felt it would be even more dangerous for the book and stones to remain together, so while he gave the book to Yoshi for safekeeping, he gave the stones to Makina. Yagura Society? Martubas? I'd never heard of these terms before at all. And then there was this damn Book of Shadows again. Why did that have to keep coming up? You removed Sachiko Shinozaki from that school, and in doing so, you created the perfect storm of opportunity. Two-way travel to and from that dimension is now possible. It's no longer a one-way road. A new spiritual hotspot, something not of this world, has been born. She thrust the ever after stones toward me triumphantly and continued to make her pitch, growing more excited by the second. I was legitimately speechless. What could I say? Don't you see? That place is a gold mine. People can no longer claim the worlds of spirits is fake, or that spiritual investigators like myself are lying. It's all different now. Occult research can be legitimized. I'm even considering bringing people to that cursed dimension on tour if I can, to make a little extra cash. Kishinuma and I both reacted to this preposterous suggestion with a start. She couldn't possibly be serious. Could she? I've deleted the proxy doll data from Naho's blog, so no one will be able to jump that way anymore. Only I possess the means to enter that place now. Sorry, I'm moving around my microphone. What could she possibly have been thinking? I wanted to stop her at once. I wanted to take those stones and break them right there on the spot before anyone else got hurt. But when I begin conducting these tours, however, I want to make the customer safety my top priority. Also, this episode's going on a little long, so sorry about that. And you seek your friend's spirits, do you not? Well, investigating that dimension can help you reach that goal. Our destinations are the same, Ayumi. Aiko leaned in as she spoke, her breath, scented with the sugary sweetness of the extravagant desserts we'd been eating, tickled my nose. So what do you say? Let's go back to Heavenly Host Elementary together. One more time. Shall we? I really wanted to conduct tours using paper dolls, but missed my chance. Now though, I have these lovely stones. I feel this must be fate, and I can make a business of it. Ooh. Aiko seemed like she was on top of the world, but that just made me all the more disgusted with her. So how about it? On the other hand, she was offering me a chance to save our lost friends, and however remote that chance may have been, and stacked the odds frustratingly in her favor. I still couldn't just say yes, but I also couldn't say no. Honestly, I resented Aiko for putting me in this position. I glared at her for a moment before I said anything. I can't answer that right now. Give me some time to think it over. I'd almost forgotten Kishinuma was there. Sudden waves of guilt washed over me. He had an absolutely incredulous look on his face. I couldn't bear to see it, so I looked away. You don't know where the Book of Shadows is. We don't know where the Book of Shadows is anyway. Plus, how do we know those stones can actually do what you say they can? There's no way you could have already tried it, right? Aiko smiled. She oriented the two stones so they'd form a perfect yin-yang symbol, then swatted them together once again. Immediately, the stones began glowing with a bluish-white hue, and a stream of energy started to form around her. You gotta be kidding me. Aiko continued smiling and looked directly into my eyes. No need to decide now. Think it over. Yes, it's true. The full range of these stones' power has yet to be tested, so their true danger is as yet undetermined. She slowly separated the two stones as she said this, and the energy surrounding her dissipated. But they're from the home of Mahito Shinozaki, prominent branch of the Shinozaki tree. Their authenticity and credibility of my intelligence is hard to dispute. Can I see them? Kishinuma didn't wait for an answer. He grabbed the ever-after stones from Aiko's hands and began examining them carefully. Hard to believe this is what was in that box. You weren't planning on keeping these stones all to yourself, were you? Aiko seemed taken aback by the question. Way to go, Kishinuma. You managed to catch her off guard. Half the credit for finding them is due to Shinozaki risking her skin, after all.
Aiko seemed to ponder these words for a moment.
じゃあお互い勝手に行
Well,
け
then
ない
let's
よう
make
に
sure
一
neither of
つ
us
ずつ
can
持
go
って
by
みましょう
ourselves.
か。
We'll each keep one of the 2 stones.
わかりました。
Alright,
ちょうだい。
give me one,
Kishinuma-kun.
Kishinuma. Oh. Sure thing. Kishinuma plopped one of the stones into my hand, then slipped the other back into the drawstring bag. And handed it to what's-her-face. There. He then casually handed the pouch back to its rightful owner.
その気になったら連絡
Feel
をちょ
free
う
to
だ
give
い。
me a call anytime you like. And don't
サー
worry,
ビスと
I'll
して
help you.
ブ
I'll
ッ
even
クオ
help
ブ
you
シャド
find
ウ
the
ズの
Book of
捜索
Shadows.
は私も手伝ってあげる。
Aiko flashed us the biggest, most gregarious smile I think I'd ever seen.
あの本さえ見つかれば
And when we
一緒
find
に
it,
行ってくれるの
you
よ
will
ね。
go with me,
あゆ
won't
みちゃ
you?
ん。
Ayumi? I closed my eyes and gave something like a half-hearted half nod. Lowering my head without raising it again, it was interpreted as a yes. But I'm not sure I meant it that way. Good.
じゃあここは私が出しておく
It's
わ
on
ね。
me today. Aiko got up and grabbed the check.
いえ、
No,
私も出します。
I'll pay for mine. Took out my wallet. I had no desire to owe this person anything. Aiko just smiled.
割り勘ってことで。
Dutch it is then.
そうそう。これは私からのプレ
I
ゼン
almost
ト。
forgot. I'd like you to have this. Aiko handed her photograph to me. Her
嫌だ
photograph.
わ。そんなに構えないで。これは無
No,
料で
no,
差
it's
し上
not
げる
going
わ
to。bite you.
Look
I'm
at
not
it,
asking
it's
you
just-
money for it, so please, just take it with my blessing. Finally, something that isn't that shot.
最低だよ。
45 minutes of that. Jesus. I despise her.
ああ、
Me too.
鈴本さんや篠原さん、
Suzumoto,
Morishige.
Shinohara,
ゆい先生、
Morishige, Miss
みん
Yui.
なのことが終わ
As
ったら
soon as I'm done with those
こ
four,
の石はすぐに
I'm
壊すか
breaking
ら。
this stone.
おう、そ
Yeah,
の意見に
I'm
は
right
俺
there
も
with
同感
you.
だ。
Better make sure to break the other one
両
though
方
too
とも
while
ぶっ
you're at
壊
it.
す。
As if he'd been waiting for this cue, Kishinuma pulled the other stone from his pocket.
岸沼くん、
Kishinuma?
あの学校のヤバさも
She
知らねえ
doesn't
で
know
浮か
what
れ
it's
てや
like
が
in
った
that school. I mean,
こっそりい
she
た
was
だいてきた。
actually getting excited about going there, so I helped myself when she wasn't looking.
岸沼くん、
Kishinuma. That's amazing. You're terrible.
緊急事態によりやむなしだ。
Serious business calls for
けど
serious
Yoshinozaki.
action. Though,
こう言っちゃうのな。
Shinozaki, I don't know how to
生
say
き
this
返らせ
exactly,
る
but
とかその
about the whole resurrection thing,
鈴本たちのことは
the whole situation with Suzumoto and the
もう
others
考えない方
should
がいいんじゃない
probably
か。
just be left alone, don't you think?
無茶ばっかして。
You've gone through so much
お
already,
前がまた
and
死
have
ぬ
come
思いす
really
るとかよ
close to dying. I don't think any of them,
鈴本も唯一先
not
生も
Suzumoto, Miss Yui, Shinohara,
むし
Morishige,
ろ
would want that.
でも
But
そうじゃないか
that
も
might
しれない。
not be true. Damn it,
いい
Shinozaki,
加減に
just
しろ
stop.
篠崎。
Do you know how much
少しは
Satoshi
長
and
島
Nakashima
が
have
どんだ
been
けお前
worrying
のこと
about
心
you?
配。
ご
I'm
めんな
sorry.
さい。でもお願い、岸沼くん。
Kishinuma, please,
もう少しだけ、
you have to understand.
もう少しだけ
I
でいい
just
から
need a little more.
私の気の済むま
I
でや
need
ら
you
せ
to
て。
hear with me for just a little longer, okay? Please just let me do this. Don't take the stone. Don't do it. Fine. But listen,
は
you're not doing alone.
い。よ
I'm going to keep one of these stones. Okay. Pet,
大丈夫だ。
it'll be alright, you know. I turned my gaze up to meet Kishinuma's eyes. My eyes must have looked like saucers, windows into a mind full of worries, ideas and fears spurred by this unexpected turn of events.
なんかあったらすぐ連絡しろよ。
If anything
前み
happens,
たいに目つぶっ
don't
て突
hesitate
っ
to
走っ
call
て
me, okay?
勝手に死にそうになってんじゃねえぞ。
I don't want you blindly rushing into dangerous situations like you did yesterday.
俺だって
I may not
お
be
前
able
一
to
人
offer
くらい
much,
守れる自
but I'm
信はあんだから
confident I
よ。
can at least offer you protection from harm. Kishinuma patted me on the head reassuringly as he said this, and I had no idea how to react. I felt warm and safe, but also a little annoyed, much like a younger sister being simultaneously comforted and scolded by her big brother. All I can say in response was, okay. I could feel my eyes still bulging from my head, open as far as my eyelids would allow. I imagined how I must have appeared to Kishinuma and was momentarily embarrassed.
んじゃそろそろ帰るとするか。
Come on now, let's get you home. Okay. And now that we have control, it is time to end this episode here. Thank you all for watching. We are 3 hours into this. Jesus Christ. I don't feel like I've been playing this for 3 hours, but who knows. Anyways, appreciate y'all for watching. I'm sure we'll get to the real spooky stuff here soon. But until then, stay safe, stay classy, and I hope y'all have a great day. Goodbye.